Please be seated. I know this is unusual, but I'm going to start with a confession. I used to think that if I had just enough faith, life would be a little more, organized to begin with, less stressful, maybe, that I would have more clarity, maybe even fewer bills. I don't know. But alas, faith is not some magic spell that clears our calendars or heals us overnight. Faith, as it turns out, looks a lot more like what we see in today's gospel, and it sounds a lot more like what the prophet Jeremiah tells the people who just want to go home. So let's talk about faith and trust and what they actually look like, and how in the middle of exile or illness or even just a bad Tuesday, we can keep turning to God with open eyes and grateful hearts. Because here's the secret sauce. I'll give it to you up front. Gratitude leads to joy, not the other way around. Let me say that again. Gratitude leads to joy, not the other way around. So if you're thinking that you won't have anything to be thankful for until you're happy, this sermon is for you. Let's start with Luke. 10 people with leprosy stand at a distance because they had to. In their world, leprosy meant total isolation. No synagogue, no market, no hugging your kids. You couldn't even walk on the same side of the road as other people. But these 10 spotted something. They saw someone coming down the road to them. And they recognized him. "Jesus, Master," they cried out. That is the first part of faith, recognizing God, especially when God walks by. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not always great at that. Sometimes Jesus shows up in a form that I'm just not expecting, like a person who challenges me, or a moment of stillness that I skip past in my busyness. Sometimes God is present in the middle of something that feels very much like not a blessing, like Babylon, or like a hospital waiting room. And yet, these 10 saw Jesus coming even through the haze of their pain and their shame. That's faith. Not certainty, not clarity, but simply recognizing that is someone who can help. Faith doesn't just recognize God, though. It asks something of God. "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." That's their prayer. Simple, honest, direct, no complicated theology, no promise to be better or to pay him back somehow, just help. When we talk about trust in God, we're not talking about the kind of trust that says, "I'm blessed, I don't need anything." We're talking about a relationship that invites us to ask boldly with open hands and open hearts. And then Jesus does something interesting here. He doesn't heal them on the spot. He doesn't touch them and make them clean. Instead, he says, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." Now, that's unexpected because that's something someone would do after they had been healed, not before. But they go anyway. They trust him. And as they go, they're made clean. You see, sometimes God's help doesn't come in the form of a lightning bolt or a dramatic healing. Sometimes it comes in the form of taking the next step forward. It's confusing, maybe awkward, that not yet healed next step that sometimes we take. And still, we go. Now here's where the story takes another turn. 10 are healed, but how many come back? Just one. One turns around, praising God loudly, and falls at Jesus' feet to say, "Thank you." Now before we get too judgy about that, let's admit those 9 were probably just doing what Jesus said to do. Go and show yourselves to the priests. They were obeying Jesus. They might have been running toward a life that they hadn't had in years, toward families and homes and the synagogue. But this one man, this Samaritan no less, a foreigner, he stops, turns, and notices. He notices something holy has just happened. He recognizes who made that possible, and he returns. That's the moment of gratitude right there. But here's what I want to underline. That moment of gratitude unlocks something deeper. Jesus said to him, "Your faith has made you well." Now, that word right there that we translate as well, or sometimes some translations use the word whole there, that word means restored, made complete, saved. 10 were healed. 1 was made whole. Only 1 was saved. Why? Because gratitude does more than offer thanks. It reorients our hearts. And this is important. It gives birth to joy. And joy is what makes us whole. Modern psychology, by the way, backs this up. Yes, Jesus and science agree, so write that down. Researchers like Robert Emmons and Brene Brown have found that gratitude is not just a response to joy, it's a pathway to joy. Brown puts it this way: it is not joy that makes us grateful, it is gratitude that makes us joyful. People who practice gratitude, who intentionally notice and name and give thanks for even small blessings, report higher levels of joy, resilience, and connection. Neuroscience shows that gratitude literally activates the pleasure centers of our brains. It changes how we experience the world. That Samaritan that turned around, he wasn't just healed in body. He became joyful because he practiced gratitude. He noticed, he praised, and he gave thanks. So let's shift over to Jeremiah now. The Israelites are in exile in Babylon. Their temple is gone. Their land is gone. Their whole identity has been upended. And God says, what? Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you. In other words, don't just sit around waiting for it to get better. Don't mope in Babylon. Live, create, plant tomatoes, fall in love, pray for the place you're in, even if it's not the place you want to be. This is radical when you think about it, because exile isn't just geography. It's spiritual disorientation. It's waking up and realizing that life isn't what you thought it would be. And God's message is not just hang tight until I fix everything. Instead, it is there is still life here, and there is still good here. Look for it, create it. And here's the key. When we start to look for goodness, that's when we start to feel joy. Even in Babylon, even in exile, even in traffic, even in illness or hardship or a political mess. One of the leaders of the clergy retreat that I just came from shared this habit he has. Every morning when he wakes up, the first thought he thinks is, "Good morning, Lord. What will you surprise and delight me with today?" Some days it's a weird-looking cloud. Or some days it's a kind word from someone unexpected. Or some days it's a long walk. And other days it's finding time to rest in his easy chair. I've begun this practice, and I have to tell you that in only a few short days, that initial prayer has opened my eyes. It turns my gaze outward and upward, and before I know it, I am walking in gratitude, and gratitude is walking me to joy. Another way we nurture gratitude and thereby joy is by retelling stories. Remember the last time God answered a prayer? Remember when someone showed up just when you needed them? Remember when you were braver than you thought you could be? Remember when you laughed on a day that you thought you would only cry? These are miracle stories. They are worth telling and retelling, if only to ourselves. Because every time we tell them, we rekindle gratitude. Every time we kindle gratitude, joy is right around the corner. So tell your stories. Share your joy. Pass it on to others like a blessing. Let's wrap up with one more word from Jeremiah. Seek the welfare of the city, plant gardens, have families, pray for Babylon. In other words, stop waiting for life to begin again. You're already in it. Don't let worry rob you of wonder. Don't let fear rob you of gratitude. Because when you stop obsessing over what you've lost or what you might lose, you can start celebrating what you still have and what is to come. And there is so much gratitude still to come. Joy, my friends, is not that what we feel every once in a while, and it's not something we feel once everything is all fixed and perfect. Joy is what we feel when we open our eyes and we say, thank you. So let's circle back. 10 people were healed. 1 turned back. 10 received a gift. 1 received joy. Faith is recognizing when God walks by. It's asking for help when we need it. It's turning around to say thank you. It's noticing delight even in the middle of Babylon. It's remembering our miracle stories. It's trusting that God is not done surprising us. So this week, try asking, how will you surprise and delight me today, Lord? And then keep your eyes open. There might be tomatoes in Babylon. There might be healing down the road. There might be joy, deep, honest, sacred joy, just waiting to be noticed. Amen.